Hey everybody, welcome in. As you know, last week I kind of wasn't as kind of bullish as normal, so I took some time to assess the entire situation of exactly where Bitcoin is right now, and this is called SWOT analysis. And we are at a juncture where, there's a mixed sentiment. There's some good stuff happening, and there's some bad stuff happening that's leading to some price suppression. And that's where we are. But I'll also talk about some of the other crazy news that's happening too, which is fascinating. I was waiting for this thing to pop, make sure I am going live and not talking to myself. Anyway, Biddy getting smacked down. We're at a juncture. Actually, it's holding up pretty well. Remember, when you have a $70,000 asset and it goes up and down $500 or $1,000, that's nothing, okay? Especially in terms of Bitcoin. But let's jump in. We've got some new stuff today. The crypto market cap is 2.4 trillion, which is a lot. Remember, the bear was under a trillion. Volume 65 billion. That's down about 20 billion from yesterday, if I recall. Fear and greed 74. Bitcoin dominance still 55.4. And we're going to talk about 21 rules. Saylor's new 21 rules. In fact, what I'm going to be doing as well going forward is people have asked me to integrate more Bitcoin miner stuff and MicroStrategy stuff and proxy stuff into these videos. And that's what I'm going to do. So it's going to be Bitcoin and proxies in the Bitcoin Daily. So let's go, and not financial advice. Who cares? And shout out to everyone on Patreon. The Beaten Trail says, new Patreon member here. Best channel online for advice for sure. Unfortunately, I don't give advice. I just share data. So you can make your own decisions. Let's check out the Bitcoin monthly returns before we jump into charts and everything else. We are down 2.9% for the month of June. And everybody is not calm. Hey, Linda, good to see you. And Billy, thank you for coming. But let's jump into the news first. A lot to break down today. And it's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Bitcoin news time. First of all, these are kind of the thoughts that I've been thinking about since last week. And why, normally on Fridays, I talk about how the weekend is going to be bullish. Last Friday is the one that I didn't for like 10 weeks or 3 months or even longer. So let's talk about, break down how I view the Bitcoin market right now at this juncture, okay? And these are the bullish points for Bitcoin. First of all, there is strong support level. We have this kind of 66, 65, 67, whatever you want to call it, 66.6. It doesn't matter. It's all plus or minus $1,000. But we've been at this for weeks and months, and it's indicating it's a solid floor. So I referred to this yesterday as the $42,000 level, which was this exact same support level in the last bull run, okay? And I call these steps. 66K, 65K is what I call a step. Layer 7 on the Lila model. Step number 7, whatever you want to call it. Then we have the macro. Okay, we have the CPI and PPI coming down in below expectations this week. The overall economic environment, you could argue, if you believe government data, more favorable. And that's good for risk assets like Bitcoin. But most importantly, liquidity is up. We're going into a big liquidity cycle, which will float all boats. Also, we've got lots of positive headlines despite recent struggles. We've got new ETF approvals. We've got new ETFs coming from all over the world. We have political support from figures that I will not mention because people get mad. And other stuff is fundamentally bullish. Also, we have institutional accumulation. We've got now pension funds joining, fire department pension funds adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets and so much, all sorts of stuff. You got whales stacking that I proved on chain yesterday. And they're accumulating as well as other institutions. And that should suggest confidence in Bitcoin's long-term value. And Saylor is back. Semler is in. The other company, Metaplex in Japan, is in too. Bitcoin treasuries are now becoming a thing. And Saylor's back with a vengeance. We'll talk about that in a minute too. So that's the good stuff. Now, where it gets tricky is we have bad stuff counterbalancing the good stuff. And that's why we're stuck at this layer 7. This is the bad stuff, the bearish points. We are range bound, and Bitcoin has been unable to break the 71, 72, 73 level, new all-time high, and that creates frustration and bearish sentiment amongst traders. Traders want GRQ, get rich quick. They want $100,000 Bitcoin yesterday. They don't understand we've got up 166% in a year, but they want more. And that can be very dangerous in markets. All right? Greed kills. Real simple. Don't be greedy. Be patient. Patient pays. Greed kills. I should trademark that. Now, altcoin weakness as well. Ethereum, Solana have seen big declines too. Bitcoin dominance still around 54% though, so maybe just the meme coins are making up for it. We'll see. And there's overall weakness in the crypto market, which does impact Bitcoin. But I believe the crypto market, the altcoin market, kind of follows Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's weak, the rest are weak too. We also have a lot of technical selling pressure. We've got GBTC skunk scale dumping all the time. Hedge funds are playing games, putting a lid on price. You've got the Mt. Gox overhang. And we have profit taking from short-term holders that are happy with the money they made. Yeah. Then we have the miners. They are selling. The post-halving miners selling their inventory, adding to downward pressure on prices. And then also, we have a lack of any immediate catalysts. The current market is missing the clear immediate catalyst to drive prices higher, leading to a stagnation in prices. People want to know, okay, when's the big next Saylor coming in? Or when's the big next sovereign buying Bitcoin? Or when will BlackRock start stacking like crazy? Or when will hedge funds leave the picture? All of these things are kind of keeping a lid on things. But let's break it down to simpler terms. So I think it's all much to do about this. And I've mentioned this many times. The most important thing is the time frame right now. We are in the post-halving shakeout that lasts for 90 days. Therefore, we have 34 days to go, ladies and gentlemen. And again, thank you to the mods in chat, T&D Tesla and K8 and Sean Donnelly and everybody who's here. And I missed a whole bunch of people. Linda, Billy, and Devon, and Adam Q, and Clint A. People from Australia and Canada and all these wonderful places. But let's look at this time frame in simple terms. All right, think of it as a kind of like a periscope when you're looking at the horizon. This is where we are. We are in the middle of the range between the all-time high and the floor. Real simple. Right there in the middle of the range. The trend is still up, the blue, but we are bang on that 66, 65K level. And in this 90-day post-halving scorecard, as I call it, we have 34 days to go. So another month and change until we can get out of this. And we have a combination as well. We're moving into the July, August, summertime period, which is normally slow as well. And that puts a lid on things too. Okay? People start spending their money in September, unless they spent it all on expensive, luxurious vacations, which I will not be doing because I'll be here with you every single day. Summer be damned. So that's the key thing. But let's get into more of the news. So I hope that shows you kind of why I'm kind of stuck. I see what the hedge funds are doing. That made me a little bit not as excited last week. That's still there. And this other stuff, I track the miners like crazy. They're dumping hand over fist to pay their bills. Their rewards have been halved. Now the real pain starts for some of the miners, but the miners are holding up well. I'll talk more about those in a minute too. But this is the big news. So first of all, Michael Saylor predicts Bitcoin to $8 million. And this is from Vivek. He said Bitcoin is going to $8 million. And he also said, I'll be buying it when Bitcoin is at $8 million. So he'll be forever buying the top. And Vivek says, can you feel it? So this brings me to something. And I'm not going to write this down and put in a slide, but I did see Michael Saylor's 21. He has this thing called Michael Saylor's 21 rules for Bitcoin calls, Bitcoin chaos, and an economic virus. So I'm going to read off these 21 rules as too many to put in, but I thought it's worth mentioning for you all. And as you know, I'm a big fan of Michael Saylor, have been for decades, not just since MicroStrategy, but from the mobile era as well. Now, this is his 21 rules. This is going to take a minute, but it's worth listening to. Those who understand Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. Those who don't understand it, criticize it. And it's very similar to another favorite name we have here, and that is Tesla. Anyway, everyone is against Bitcoin before they are for it. That's rule number 2. Now, rule number 3, you grasp Bitcoin when you'll never fully understand Bitcoin. You'll never be done learning about Bitcoin. Interesting one. Because people, including Michael Saylor, used to say, it took 1,000 hours to learn Bitcoin. Now it's like, you'll never learn it. It's what is the word I'm looking for? One of those things you can never figure out. Anyway, let's jump in. Number 4, it's powered by chaos. Number 5, Bitcoin is the only game in the casino where we can all win. Interesting point, actually. Number 6, Bitcoin won't protect you if you don't wear the armor. I guess he's talking about your OPSEC, your personal security here. Bitcoin is the only thing in the universe you can truly own. Fair. Everyone gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. Yes. I like to say Bitcoin is an IQ test. So does another person. Also, only buy Bitcoin with the money you can afford to lose. Oh, no, hang on a second. He said only buy Bitcoin with the money you can't afford to lose. That's a twist. If you got that, normally you could say only invest what you can afford to lose. He said only buy Bitcoin with the money you can't afford to lose. So if you have your last rock $10,000 or whatever, and you can't lose that, he is suggesting you buy Bitcoin with that. And I'm reading these for the first time, by the way. This is breaking news. It just came into me in a minute. Let's see. What else do you got here? Number 10, tickets to escape the Matrix are priced in Bitcoin. Interesting. I spoke about the Matrix last night. I've never seen the movie, but I know what the Matrix is. And this is our life raft to escape at all costs. I put an interesting survey out on Twitter earlier in the week. Check it out if you're interested. Now, it talks about the Matrix too, and the life raft. Number 11, Bitcoin insight is restricted to those who need to know. Number 12, I like this. All your models will be destroyed. Number 13, the cure for the economic ill is the orange pill. Oh, he's rhyming. Number 14, be for Bitcoin, not against fiat. Okay. So basically, hating fiat is not a reason to buy Bitcoin. I get that. I like that. Bitcoin is for everybody. I love that. I'm all about everything being equal. I believe everybody should be equal and treated equally and have equal opportunity. So I like that too. Learn to think in Bitcoin. I love that. I talk about pricing things in Bitcoin, for it makes a lot of sense. Number 17, you don't change Bitcoin. It changes you. Yes, it gives you a very different perspective of the world in every regard, especially the decentralization element. No CEO, no marketing department. It's just there. Cannot be messed with, cannot be touched, cannot be broken, cannot be manipulated. The more you try to kill it, the stronger it gets, which I love too. Bitcoin's fascinating, really. Let me see what else we got. 18 laser eyes protect you from the endless lies. Laser eyes I never got. I don't follow the herd, so you'll never see a laser eye picture on my Twitter or anything like that. That's not my thing, but I like the endless lies because that's the world we live in. Everything is a lie, and it pisses me off. Number 19, respect Bitcoin or it'll make a clown out of you. I like that. In fact, we'll talk about Peter Schiff a little bit later. We won't talk about him, actually. We'll just show a picture of him. And do not sell your Bitcoin. Spread Bitcoin with love. I love it. So that's the 21 rules from Michael Saylor. But there's a lot more regarding MicroStrategy and Saylor. I hope this doesn't turn out to be too long a video, but let's go. It's Friday. People say it's a slow news day. No, it is not. All right. This is his target. And I thought, okay, if Saylor says Bitcoin's going to $8 million, what would the market cap of Bitcoin be? Assuming it happens when there's 20 million Bitcoin, that would be $160 trillion market cap. When you consider the price right now is about 1.6, it's less than 1.6 is the market cap. So it's 100x, obviously. 70,000, 67,000, 65,000 going to 8 million is big. But the question is when? Is that 2040, 2045, 2030? We'll see. But we know what happens with fiat. We have countless cases all around the world of how fast fiat can go to zero. That means, technically in dollar terms, Bitcoin can go very high, very fast. It doesn't mean you'll have today's $8 trillion of value because fiat's going to zero. But anyway, separate issue. Now, Other news regarding Michael Saylor. MicroStrategy raised its latest convertible note offering by $200 million because of demand. The original plan was to issue $500 million. It also offered initial buyers an option to purchase an additional $100 million of the notes. This could be even bigger. The point is, he will sell this fast. He's going to have $700 million, $800 million in his pocket. And you know what he's going to do immediately? Immediately? No time for DCA. He's going to drop it all into Bitcoin. This was my point on the bullish side here. Number 5, Saylor's back. So somebody's going to plunk $800 million down real quick. He's going to continue to do so. So that's other big news. And this is another piece of breaking news too. Bernstein sets a $2,890 price target for the company's shares. And they spoke about their remarkable ascent since 2023, how they've more than doubled. And they believe, the Bitcoin holding standing at 214,400 Bitcoin, I think, will be worth about 15 billion, will go a lot higher. And this will be a significant driver of the stock. This is what I call the infinite money glitch. In fact, let me check right now if anything is happening, because normally, this is so bizarre. It's like clockwork every time on Friday. You can't make this up, except for last Friday, because that was a bit bearish. Markets close 1 p.m. Pacific. And then, right when the markets close 1 p.m. Pacific, everybody phone was into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes up. Bitcoin has gone up $200 since I started. From 65.5, 65.4, now it's 65.7. And I think it's going to go higher this weekend. Okay, this weekend is back. I'm back to bullish for all the reasons I explained, especially if I don't think Saylor can get his cash this weekend to buy, but he'll have it next week for sure. Also, in fun news before we get into the charts, 13 years ago, Wikileaks accepted Bitcoin exactly 13 years ago. And the world was changed forever. This was the beginning of things like freedom of information, things like truth coming to the surface. Now we have other things like X, etc. And one of my hopes is we get more truth in the world. So important. But remember, humans don't like the truth. The truth hurts. Some people shy away from it and would rather be ignorant. Anybody watching this channel does not want to be ignorant. Otherwise, you wouldn't spend the time with me every day. So thank you all for being here. Let's go. One more thing, too, for perspective from Hey Apollo. Bitcoin is down 6% over the last week. That's the noise. But Bitcoin is up 166% over the last year. That is the signal. Always seek out the signal. Always seek out the truth. Now, this is other crazy news. Bitcoin is exponential gold from Fidelity's director of global macro, Jurian Trubber. Huge news. Exponential gold. We know what exponentiality means. By the way, there's a guy on the right is a guy who shills gold to buy emerging market stocks, which have done terribly over the last 20 years. Some people just don't know how to allocate capital. Don't listen to them, okay? They are bitter and they're angry and they're foolish. And actually going back to, I got to pull up the rule from Michael Saylor. Sorry, I'm on a bit of a roll today. What rule was it? I remember something about clowns. Yes. Rule number 19 from Michael Saylor. Respect Bitcoin. If you do not, it will make a clown out of you. Shout out to Peter Schiff. Well done. And this is funny because people always, sometimes the haters like Peter Schiff, call Bitcoin a pyramid scheme. This is pictured on a US dollar. It's a pyramid. You can't make this up. This is government, everybody. They're saying the quiet part out loud, just so you can get it. And in more crazy government stuff, and just so you know, I don't try. I'm not even going to go there, but this is too much, okay? From Simply Bitcoin. Janet Yellen on reducing the $1.2 trillion US budget deficit, which I believe, by my math, will be $1.4 trillion this year. It's difficult for us to cut costs. More than half is defense. Cuts there aren't possible, okay? And of course, Simply Bitcoin says time for change. Difficult to cut costs. Half is defense, all right? She's asked about deficit, And she said we can't. Half is defense. Well, let's expose some lies right here real quick. This is from my budget. I actually, in my spare time, I build a P&L and budget account and a balance sheet for the US government because I find it very interesting. I'm sure you all do the same thing at home. If you look here, these are my expected budget items for the year 2024. Interest expense will probably go a little bit higher. Defense budget is 0.85 trillion. Medicare, 0.85 trillion. Health, 0.9 trillion. Social Security, 1.35 trillion. All right. When you add just these five up, and there's more, that's just these five, the defense budget is only 16.8%. Okay, 16.8%. I'm not saying you need to cut defense, but I'm saying you need to, well, if you want to talk about defense, I think they're building the wrong weapons. The world has changed. It should be much more about drones. And anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. But the point is, our leaders that are in control of money have no clue. And that's concerning. That's why we Bitcoin. All right, let's get into some charts. God, I think that was the longest intro ever. 21 minutes. Thank you all for sticking with me. Let's talk about the top and bottom indicator. We are still yellow. In fact, the yellow is dipped, so we got a lot of yellow left to go. Before we get to orange, dark orange, and red. Red is when we get very, very nervous, ladies and gentlemen. That's rotation time. And we have a long way to go in this bull run. This tool is made up of a composite score of 22 different on-chain metrics that are fed to it live, just so you know. Not pie in the sky. It's a simple line with colors, but there's a lot more to it behind the scenes. Let's talk about the Head and Shoulders. I did a chart last week with the inverse Head and Shoulders with a bottle of Head and Shoulders, which is kind of, many of you are too young to probably remember that product. And I didn't even know if it exists in the US. But anyway, Head and Shoulders is alive and well. We know what that means. We're just extending the right shoulder out a little bit more. That's all. And that could even last another 36 days. We shall see. Also, Jury Trimmer, it talks about the adoption of Bitcoin compared to everything else. And it's quicker than internet server adoption. And remember, we're not even just talking the internet. We're talking about internet server adoption. The scale of how the backbone of the internet had to grow real fast. Well, Bitcoin is growing quicker than that. Bitcoin is exponential gold and a key player in the store of value. And its price is mainly driven by network growth, scarcity, monetary and fiscal policy cycles, liquidity, and sentiment. And Bitcoin is following the S-curve of many historical technological developments, and we are still early. The network is still growing, along with the power curve of non-zero addresses converging towards it, and Bitcoin's price will oscillate around it, reflecting boom and bust cycles. Everybody in the world now knows more than ever they need Bitcoin more than ever. It was built for a crisis. That's why I always say Bitcoin loves a crisis, and the crises will just keep adding up. And a shout out, of course, to our financial leaders of the world who will make sure that I'm not even going to say anything there. So that's the adoption. It's going really well. Let me see. Peter Brandt, who I much respect, has this little chart. He talks about the hump, the slump, the bump, the dump, and then finally the big pump. And it is a chart of interest. And he speaks about how Bitcoin 66K is the middle of the range. And yes, it is that. And yes, as we speak about 66K, we are at $65,850. So we're still oscillating around that 66K, $150 away, which is a nothing burger. Speaking of nothing burgers, Bitcoin Munger thinks we're going to 70K next again, which is possible because he sees those shorts up there ripe for some liquidation. And he believes we're going to run it back to 70K all over again. TikTok, expect to be very happy and fast. But remember as well, if you look at all the stuff I've shared so far, this is the perfect bear trap setup. Let me remind you very quickly with this chart. I apologize, I forget where it came from. Somebody sent it to me, one of our research people. But here, a bear trap in Bitcoin is one which is in financial markets, which is a deceptive market condition where the price of Bitcoin appears to be declining, leading traders to believe the downward trend will continue. And this results in traders both selling their Bitcoin and or initiating a short position to profit from the anticipated further decline, which means what follows next is a spike. We are probably somewhere between 60 and 65K, we're close to where we are now, is the classic bear trap folding out right now. And again, going to this model, TABI model here, will show you we are still early in this bull run. Very early indeed. Now, I don't know how many more charts we have left, 3 or 4. Bitcoin is also in the reaccumulation phase at the 66K level. Yes, we broke it, but now we're $100 below it. So that can happen. Layers like support layers, don't take them literally. They can be pierced by a couple $100 or $1,000. But now the reaccumulation scenario is still in play as long as Bitcoin maintains this level, this approximate level. I don't see us going lower. There is too much demand out there, and there's more demand coming next week. Somebody's going to buy a big bag. Now, switching gears, we talked a lot about Bitcoin, talked a bit about MicroStrategy. Now, breaking news from Quinton. This is how the amount of renewables that the Bitcoin mining industry uses now 55.8%. This is higher than any other industry in the world. Okay, and only growing. Bitcoin miners sussed out a long time ago that it's best to use renewables because they're the cheapest. That's how you make most profit. Speaking of miners, quick check-in on the miner model. And what's interesting here is a couple of things I'd like to look at is the gains to the 52-week high and the distance from the 52-week low. It shows you the overall strength and performance of the players. And guess who just popped up on the charts? Well, ClearingSpark is number 1. That's smoked everything over the last 18 months. Number 2 is Iris Energy, up 380% off the floor. Wolf, 344%. Core Scientific, but they went through a bankruptcy. That doesn't really count. And then Mawson, Bitdeer, Bitfarms, Marathon, 171% off the bottom. Cypher, 133% off the bottom. This is just like crypto, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes the things are... if their gains to 52-week highs are really, really far out, that can be a red flag. Okay, so remember that carefully. Next Bitcoin playlist will be here. Let's talk about the ETFs real quick. I'll let you all go. We have 107 days in the box. 107 days, and we had a nasty 107 day. Well, today is technically 108th day of the ETFs, but we don't have the numbers yet. Macro update, you saw a big sell-off there with ARK. That's the green. The rest are kind of flat. If we go back here, you'll see that Fidelity dumped 100 million, but BlackRock brought in 16 million. They always run counter to each other, but a massive dump from ARK to the tune of 62 million, and another bunch as well from Grayscale. In addition, we are back to red. We had that one positive day and then another big dump. And what's really interesting is we stuck another 3,308 Bitcoin back to the system, but you know who's going to be buying those real quick? It'll be Saylor. And what is also very interesting, if you look at all of the ETFs taken in during this period of time, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust dumped $300 million over the last 6 days. That's 4,615 Bitcoin. But the other ETFs took in 255 million. So the Grayscale dumpage only outweighed the other ETFs by 45 million. So it's real close, real close. I keep on saying this turd will soon be flushed, but it's just, it doesn't want to go down. It keeps, anyway, soon, one day, it's inevitable. But that's big, $300 million in 6 days. A lot of Bitcoin. Thank you, Blazo, for coming. Hope you all have a good Friday. Thank you for liking the video, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.